Welcome to the Overlady Reads, the show where I, the Overlord, have a wife, the Overlady, and she reads. I also reads because we've been reading Rhythm of War, and this is part 5 of our 5-part series about us reading Rhythm of War part by part, of which there's 5, and then talking about those 5 parts in 5 videos, of which this is part 5 of those videos. Lucy, now that you've finished Rhythm of War, how you feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's a very emotional part.
Yep.
Cried multiple times.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. General, like how you were very, very positive yesterday because you finished the book last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were extremely positive towards this book in the end.
I have to say this is probably my favourite Stormlight book.
Yeah.
Like, most of the other books, it's taken me a good couple of weeks to get through.
Yeah.
Because they've been so...
long.
Well, not long, but there's been so many chapters where not very much happens and it just slows the book down.
Yeah.
And there's certain characters that get a lot of points of view in the other books. And they're really, really boring to read.
It's okay, we know what you're talking about, Dalinar, Lucy.
Oh, I am. But because they've not had a lot of points of view in this book, and when they have, they've been doing something.
Yeah.
The book's felt really good pace-wise.
Yeah.
And it's flowed really well, this book.
Mm.
So, like, it's... I think if I wasn't working... I could have quite easily read this in a good 24 hours.
Damn.
Like, it was such an easy read.
Yeah.
And even part 5, I was sat there afterwards, like, going to make my notes. And I was like, oh, it's fine. It won't take me long because it's such a short part. And by page 6 of my notes, I was like, oh my gosh, so much happens in this part.
I don't think
it didn't feel long, but oh my goodness, now I'm writing notes. It's a long part.
A lot happens. It's not the longest
so
part,
much
but
happens.
so much happens.
It's intense, and it's such a good book.
Yes.
Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10, because not enough for an Aaron. But
oh, yeah.
It's such a good
You're
book.
definitely going to give Renarin's book a 10 out of 10, no matter what happens.
Well, no, because in light of certain events, I think I'm going to have to give it like a 1 out of 10 because I'm not very happy if something happens that I think is going to happen.
Yes.
But we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Cool. So, spoilers for part 5 of Rhythm of War and really the whole Cosmere.
Yeah.
We'll probably,
All of
the Cosmere and all of the Rhythm of War. No, we're only allowed to spoil part 5. We're not allowed to talk about stuff that happened in the other parts. God.
It's fine because I genuinely can't remember the other parts at this point.
For me, this part 5 was so good. I almost feel the same where I'm like, the rest of the book kind of like just falls away because that part 5 was so good. Obviously, the part 5 wouldn't be as good if it didn't have the setup of the other parts.
Well, no,
but for me,
every part has been so good.
Yeah.
So good. I love it. I genuinely love this book.
Excellent.
Like, it's been such a good book. I actually took a good few weeks to read part 5.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't bring myself to finish the book.
You didn't want it to end.
I genuinely didn't want it to end. Like, I've been putting off reading part 5 because I just didn't want it to finish.
Yeah.
And now I finished it. I'm quite upset that I can't, like, read it again for the first time. Like, it's done.
Oh, I know that feeling where you just been like, I just want to go back till before I knew what happened at the end of this book. Because, oh my God.
It's like Mistborn. I genuinely would love to read that again for the first time, but I know I can never do it.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
Shall we jump into chapters then? Oh wait, epigraphs first. How cool are these epigraphs?
10 Days of Elle.
It's Elle's musing on the first of the final 10 days.
10 Days of Elle. So before going into it, I assumed it was Rabonio, and this was like the last 10 days before the tower fell and was taken back over by the Radiants. And I was like, oh, this is cute. Rabonio's like own personal diary, because obviously we've been getting her epigraphs with Navani. So I assumed that this was sort of like part of that.
Yeah.
And this was just her sort of like talking about the tower on its way to falling. Up until near the end of the book.
Yeah.
When we meet Elle. And then it suddenly clicked.
You're like, oh, 10 days. Oh
no.
Oh no.
Oh my goodness. I am super excited to properly meet Elle.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about Elle in Elle's part.
Yeah.
But oh boy, he sounds like fun.
He does. I found these epigraphs such beautiful little teases. Like, when I went in, I thought it was, I thought Elle was a character we had met, or maybe it was a character we'd met and got a new title. But when it says final 10 days, in my head, all I think is all those death rattles that talk about Roshar being destroyed.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god. I was like, is Roshar gonna get destroyed?
The final 10 days?
It could still happen. So that's where my brain was. So I kind of I saw final 10 days and my heart kind of went, oh no, something bad's gonna happen in 10 days.
See, again, I didn't go so dark as you. I was like, isn't it cute that she kept a diary up until the fall of And I was like, okay, how cute, her little diary entries. Oh no. No,
it was not that.
Oh boy.
Cool. Chapters. So, the first chapter of part 5 of Rhythm of War is Dalinar. He's hanging out with Sigil, Stargyle, and the Mink, because he sent Sigil and Stargyle to go fly over Ishar's camp and, get a bit of reconnaissance, find out what Ishar's up to, because Dalinar wants to go talk to him, because he wants to go find out how the hell to use his powers, because his powers are crazy. And Stargyle shows him the picture, creates an illusion to show him the picture of what it is, and Ishar is just standing in his war camp, just waiting for him. He knows he's coming. He's staring. He's waiting for him. So, ooh.
And then we remain at the battlefield.
Yes.
But we switch to Yasna, who, after a long day of war stuff, Queening, is now back in her tent, relaxing and trying to... So she's reading through the accounts that she's got from Ash and Tarn. Well, Ash. And she's sort of trying to decipher them, work out what's biased, what's actual fact, what's been sort of exaggerated, what's been played down. And she's reading.
She's reading with one hand, just draped over the side of the chair.
And then her wit comes to comfort her and try and get a bit more. And he accomplishes this by lightly kissing her fingers.
On her safe hand. How lewd, Brandon.
It's so creepy.
It's not that creepy.
But at the same time, I'm just glad he's not licking her toes or something.
I mean, yes, it's hard to disagree with that position on this matter.
Thank you.
I
don't know, I do appreciate the fact that she was talking about how, she's not romantically...
Yeah.
Attracted to him. It's more she enjoys him as a person, and she enjoys the intrigue of him and the mystery of him. Yeah. Rather than hot guy.
Yeah, she's she's in the relationship on an intellectual level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Which is nice.
I can appreciate this.
Yeah, they appreciate each other.
So they're hanging out, and they're talking about what to do about Odium, and Wit tells her that they have to create a contract to bind him. Yeah. And I'll go into my theory in a second.
Okay.
But essentially they need to create a contract for him to abide by to set the terms of their champion duel. And although Yasna's not a big fan of this idea obviously it's all they've got.
Yeah.
So they have to set something. I kind of wonder if the reason that Wit is Wit is because he drafted the contract between the shards.
Yes.
So my theory is that like Wit is like the first bondsmith.
Yeah.
I don't know if necessarily bondsmith is the right name for it.
The first like manipulator of like connections, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like.
But when he chose not to take a shard, because they all knew how powerful Adelysium was.
Yeah. Adonalsium.
Same thing.
That was worse than any pronunciation I've ever come up with.
Thank you. But because they knew how powerful the shard could be, and they now each had a part of it, he's the one that sort of drafted the contract between them. Like, the whole, like, yes, you've got this great power, but there's restraints to it, and there's rules you have to abide by.
Yeah, there was, I believe he talked about how all the shards have to abide by certain rules.
Yeah.
And I thought it does sound like there was some sort of, like, maybe not a contract like there was in there, like a written contract, but like an agreement between them that he was part of forging.
Yeah.
So he knows all the elements of and how to, take advantage of it.
And, like, I feel like that's part of the reason why he's immortal, is because he's got to sort of keep them in check.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons that Odium wants to kill him is because he's the one that can, like, if he maybe thinks that by killing Wit, he can break from the contract.
Yeah.
Like, I know it sounds strange, but that's sort of what I'm going for at the moment. Until I know more about Wit, because he likes to be secret.
I'm going to take this time to remind the audience that Lucy has not read Dawn Shard yet, and so don't say things in the comments about that. Something comes up in Dawn Shard.
Oh, cool.
Something.
Cool, next weekend. Next weekend. So, Kaladin wakes up in his room. His arms are bound together, because it turns out that in the night he's been, like, grabbing people that have tried to wake him up and, like, accidentally hurting them.
Yeah.
They've taken to restraining him in his sleep. Mm-hmm. Poor Delbert. I know. So he wakes up and he hears the tower asking him to come and help because they found the final node and they're going to kill her. Well, they're going to kill them.
Yeah.
So he knows that it's going to be a trap. Like, he's well aware that the pursuer's going to be waiting for him.
Yeah.
So he hatches a plan with for Teft and Lift to go to the Radiance whilst he's distracting the pursuer and causing a scene. They're going to wake the Radiance and they're all going to escape out the window without him. And he's going to try and catch up.
Yeah.
And then the tower asks him to send Relaine to them. So Darby goes to find Relaine.
Yeah.
The end.
The end of chapter 3.
The book we don't need anymore.
The next chapter is Dalinar. And Dalinar is having breakfast with Gorks, and they're having like one of their little Azish custom things where they've got to eat the food and then give it to like the poor people. No, not the poor people. They're like the chosen of the day, isn't it? So yeah. Gork's got to eat his food, and then everyone else gets to eat his food. They're talking about how Dalinar really wants to like go take Erythera back, but he can't. It's going to be too difficult. You've got to assail the most difficult, like the most grand fortress in the world, and they just don't have the numbers now of the people. They can't do it. So Dalinar makes the suggestion of like, hey, okay, fine. I'm going to go to see Ishar, and I'm going to have him teach me how to use my powers, and then I can use those powers to go save Erythera. That's like, it's and not just that, but like eventually defeat Odium, because, he believes his powers are the way to defeat Odium. Which the other leaders, Yasna and Gorks, they agree. They agree to that. Reluctantly. As they leave, then, Dalinar gives Yasna Oathbringer.
3 years too late.
Oh my god, Lucy, it was only written like a year ago.
Oh my god, the book came out 3 years ago. I've already read
it. And says, "Hey, I want you to write the undertext, underscript." Yeah, I think it's called the undertext.
The woman stuff at the bottom.
The woman stuff
where
at the
women
bottom.
talk about how stupid the men are.
Yeah.
And like, don't believe this bit. My husband was a bit drunk when he said this.
Yeah.
The good stuff.
The spicy bit, you know, the real good part. And Yasna's like, yes, I'm happy to do it. I will be honest, though, and I won't hold back. And Dalinar's like, I know. That's why I asked you to do it. And I'm like, it's like, oh, look.
Yeah.
Uncle
Dad.
Uncle... I've always really liked Dalinar and Yasna's relationship. I loved the moment they got in Oathbringer when... what?
Oh, Uncle. You're like a father to me.
God. I always really liked Yasna and Dalinar's like relationship. I really liked that moment they had in Oathbringer where she reads him Way of Kings for the first time. And I kind of wish we got to see more of that. We get a bit more of it in this book than any other book because Yasna's not been with Dalinar for the last couple of books.
Well, I was going to say, of all of the colons, apart from the ones that are in relationships with each other, they probably have the most time together. Yeah. There's never a lot of colon on colon time.
Yeah.
But those are the two where I think the relationships are really well fleshed out.
Yeah.
And they've got a lot of respect for each other, and they have a bond.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't say that Navani has one with Renarin.
Yep.
Because I don't even think they've had a scene together.
I don't think they've ever spoken, yep.
I wouldn't say that Navani has one with Yasna, because, like, they don't really seem to get on.
They have the awkward hug scene, you know? I enjoyed the awkward hug scene.
And, you know, Dalinar and Adolin, there's a bit of a rift forming there.
I was going to say, I think they're the two that have had the most screen time together, is Dalinar and Adolin.
But you can... I felt like in this book, their relationship dramatically changed.
Yes, they are drifting.
Yes.
Yes.
I wonder how that's going to be exploited.
Oh yeah, Lucy has a theory about that.
Oh yeah, I do.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. You're about 2 hours away. We then get Venli, who is on her way to the Oathgate with her group. They are leaving Irafuru before...
She said it.
No, I didn't. Cut that.
Said it.
Cut that. Cut that.
Not getting cut.
You. They are leaving before Dalinar arrives because the Fused are convinced that now Dalinar knows that they've taken over, he's coming to regain control.
Yes.
So they're trying to leave as quickly as they can, those that aren't really very high up the ranks.
Yeah.
So the Oathgate is quite crowded. Mm-hmm. And so they're waiting, and she's having a talk to Timber, who's trying to convince her to stay. And she's like, but I need to go to my people. And Timber's like, yes, but your people are also here. And she's like, grr. Turns out that the human that works the Oathgate has disappeared. So no one can get through. There's Moash can't even do the simplest job that they give him.
Just be a door, man.
He literally just has to stand there and open a gate, and he can't even do that properly. Why do they keep him around? Like, ugh, just kill him already. So she has a change of heart and realises that she needs to go and help the Radiants before they get slaughtered. Yeah. So she leaves her group with her exit papers. Yeah. And she goes back towards the tower. Yeah. Go find R'lain.
Yeah, good old Fenley.
Make some crab babies.
Yeah. This was I like this bit. This was for me. This is like, I know Venli already had like the turning point where she freed Lift, and did she swear the oath then? I can't remember if we talked about swearing the oath.
She hasn't sworn the oath because it wasn't accepted.
Oh, okay, cool.
And she hasn't attempted it since.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I feel like this is, to me, this is like the turning point for Venli. Like, she saved Lift, but it was like, it was, you know, but this was her saying, no, I really do need to go on that path. I took the next step. Yeah. Took the first one, and now I'm taking the next one.
Yeah. It's alright though, because we don't have to wait long before we encounter Moash. Because Navani's in her cell, and she hears loud voices outside, so she goes to the doorway to see what's going on. And he has been called to Raboniel. And he is quite adamant that he is here to kill the queen because he's the worst. She tells him that he can't do that yet because she still has use for her.
Yeah.
And his first job should be to... She needs Kaladin dead because otherwise nothing's gonna work in their plan. So he needs to go and kill Kaladin. He insists that you can't kill Kaladin. He wouldn't be wrong. Mm-hmm. You can't kill Kaladin.
Can't kill the main dude.
Well, no. He just doesn't die.
He just refuses to die.
He just hangs on in there.
Yeah.
So she gives him a knife that can kill Spren. And she's like, you can with this. Just go kill his Spren. Life will be good.
Yeah.
Whilst you're there, the pursuer is clearly delaying destroying the node that I need him to destroy because I can't corrupt this tower until he does. So just destroy the node and then you can come back and the queen is all yours. So he storms off and Navani shouts at him and he's like, I don't care, Light Eyes. You didn't help anyone else but yourself, so, no.
No. Yeah.
So then he leaves and Navani asks for a candle. And she sits and she burns prayers in her room because she knows that something big's going to happen and she's praying for, like, Kaladin's safety and for them to come out of this okay. And then she sees something glittering in the ashes and she goes over and pulls out the Void Knight.
Yeah.
Void Knife.
Yeah.
The Void Knight.
The Void Knight.
No, Renarin's not here yet.
He's not here, yeah.
She pulls out the knife that was used to kill Raboniel's daughter.
Yeah.
And there is a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of anti-void light left in the dagger.
Yeah.
Wonder how she's going to use it. Like...
Yeah, it was obvious.
Yeah, so obvious, but so exciting.
Yes. And then we have what is my personal, this is my personal, one of the highlights of the book for me. Honestly, yeah. This is the bit where Kaladin decides he's done hiding. He's what?
It's just there's so many fantastic moments.
And I picked this
and your
one.
highlight is Kaladin walking into
going
the atrium.
Yeah, it's Kaladin going for a walk because Kaladin is done hiding. Kaladin is like, no, this is the end of it. I'm finishing things now. Either he dies or I die. I am walking through this tower, and he just marches through. No soldiers stop him. No singers stop him. No fuse stop him. They let him pass, and people are coming out of their houses to come see him. Everyone's got the Shashglin painted. I'm like, people are calling his name, and this. He walks down the main atrium into the atrium, and he's just got this massive crowd of people behind him. I'm like, let's go. I'm like, let's do this. This is hype as hell to me.
Style.
I've got do you hear the people sing in my head as this happens? I'm like, this is hype as hell for me. I love this moment. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
On a slightly less musical note.
No, musical as hell. Everything should be musical. Musicals are the best.
Storm like the musical. So before you move on.
Yes.
He finds Syl again.
Oh yeah, he
How
finds
could
Syl.
you?
Syl's
You monster.
back. Syl's back. It's it's...
And she's forgotten a part of herself because they've been away for too long. So
Yeah.
she started to forget things. And she can't remember the words.
Oh no.
How could you? You monster.
So then Kaladin gets to the atrium and he starts fighting the pursuer who's there waiting for him. Whilst they fight, Teft and Lift go into the room with all the radiance in it. They knock out the guard that's in there and they seal the door with a lashing. And just as Teft is doing that, Lift cries out because it's a trap and Moash is there. And he cuts her legs with a shard blade and she falls over and she's like, uh-oh, SpaghettiOs.
Can he just not be there?
Can he just not? Yeah.
Can he just not?
Can he just not?
To be fair, he was actually bearable in this book.
Did you? I didn't mind him too much in this bit. I found him a massive boring edgelord before that, the rest of the book.
Well,
but
he had stuff to do in this.
Yeah.
So he didn't feel like his points of view were dragging. It's like Dalinar.
Yeah.
His points of view actually felt useful for once.
When he's actually doing something.
Yeah, and the only points of view we had in this book were him doing something.
Yeah.
So it was quite nice.
Yeah.
He wasn't as awful as he normally is.
Yeah.
It's the nicest thing I'm going to say about him.
So whilst that's happening, Kaladin's like longing out this battle with the Pursuer as long as possible. He has realised that the Pursuer isn't a soldier. The Pursuer is... I can't remember if he says it, but the Pursuer isn't a soldier. The Pursuer is a murderer. He is not someone trained to kill. He's someone who just kills people because that's like... Because he's immortal, so like he just keeps going after them until they die. Hence the name. So whilst they're fighting, Kaladin's like taunting him and like proper putting on a show for all the humans and regals and Fuse watching, because he's not looking to like kill the Pursuer. He's looking to destroy him. And then the chapter ends with Moash like throwing black sand at Teft and like doing something with the sand.
So then we go to Relaine, who is trying to get to the Queen because obviously David's now with him and he's told him that they need to get to the Queen and the pillar.
Yeah.
So they're heading there and they are pretending to deliver water to the Queen. So they get down to the final guard post and they're stopped. And I genuinely don't know what I'm supposed to call them anymore. I can't call them Parshendi because that's racist.
Okay.
I can't call them listeners because they're not.
Yep.
What are they?
They're singers.
Singers. Cool,
Yes.
Thank you.
So, like...
I don't need an explanation, I just need a word.
Singers.
So, he gets to the final singer guards, and they're like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I have been sent to deliver water from the voice, yeah?
Yeah.
And they're like, you are a traitor, why would they have sent you? He's like, I don't know, they just told me to do it.
They just did.
So I do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is human work, not listener work.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know, told me to take water. I'm taking water. They're like, I need to speak to your manager. And he's like, okay, let's go find my manager. So then they leave to go and look for Leshwi. And yeah, he is no longer on his way to the pillar. Uh-oh. Spaghetti. So then we go back to Kaladin, who is fighting the Pursuer. He manages to get him to eject his second body, and Kaladin keeps taunting him. And as they wrestle on the ground, he starts calling him the defeated one.
Yeah.
And then he materializes into his fourth body.
Oh.
And then Venli arrives in the central corridor, and she can't get through because there's too many people and regals and whatever else they're called in the way.
Yeah, humans.
She finally manages to get through. She finds Leshwi and she's like, looks really bad for a Stormblessed. Leshwi's like, no mate, he's on his fourth body and he's refusing to retreat because I don't know, he clearly does not want to look weak in front of Kaladin.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got a bit of a crush on him. And she's like,
that's
oh, okay.
That's Leshwi.
Cool. Oh,
yeah.
Why aren't they together? It's so annoying it doesn't end that way. And then we cut to Moash, who is trying to dodge... Well, Teft is trying to dodge Moash as much as he can. He's trying to maneuver Moash more towards the doorway so he's away from the radiance.
Yes.
Because he obviously doesn't want any of them getting hurt. And he's carefully backing away from him. He's like, you're a traitor, Moash. And Moash is like, no, I found peace, mate. I don't feel things anymore. Look. And he stabs a radiant through the head.
Mm-hmm.
Lift starts, like, trying to slowly back away without drawing attention. But in doing so, she draws his attention.
Yeah.
And he raises his shard blade at her. And Teft is like, crap.
Yeah.
So he then is like, fine, you want to fight? Come fight me then.
Yeah.
So he manages to get Moash away from Lift. And he starts coming after him. And he's like, you think you're a better warrior than me, do you? And Teft is like, I didn't say better warrior. I said better man.
Oh! Better throw down!
He gets Teft to the floor and he's about to strike him with the shard blade.
Yeah.
And
Fenderana,
just as the blade's about to hit, forms as a sphere in his hand.
Yeah.
And blocks the blade. And then he's, like, taken back in shock, because obviously he shouldn't be able to call her as a weapon at the moment.
Yeah.
Because tower's down.
Yeah.
And she materialises next to him, completely out of breath, and they both know they can't do that again. So he's like, okay, fine, I surrender, you win, we'll sit here and we'll wait for Kaladin to turn up.
Yeah.
And Moash is like, oh no, I'm not here for your surrender. Pulls out a special blade and stabs Fenderana through the forehead with it.
Mm-hmm.
And she screams, and Teft screams, and he feels her being torn away from him.
Mm-hmm.
And she is no more.
Yeah.
He then casually lifts his blade and kills Teft.
Yeah. Like, oh no.
This was not a fun chapter.
No, I liked Teft in this book, and it was very upsetting when he died.
Yeah.
And something just occurred to me as well, that it's Fenderana who dies, because after Syl left, so was the ancient daughter, and she was, like, kept imprisoned. She escaped, and then almost immediately, like, went looking for a dude to bond. Like, she was like, this is what Fenderana was the one leading that group of honest friends in the Shadowed Plains. She was, like, the first one to bond beyond Syl, and she's like, yeah.
It was a hard moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know how this is going to go down with the Honest Bren, now that they know that they can be killed.
Yeah.
Not dead-eyed. Killed.
And they're probably going to be real pissed when they find out Human is the one that found the things out and gave that weapon to the enemy.
I think they're going to be pissed no matter what.
Yeah.
Because, you know, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Like, you've literally just agreed to rebond with the humans and trust the humans. And the humans are fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh boy.
Oh boy. So then we switch back to the Kaladin pursuer fight. And Kaladin has him on his last body and then, like, seriously injures him by using the Fabrial to, like, smash him against the window. Of which there is a high storm raging outside, because this is still my archive. There's always a high storm when things are dramatic. Like,
and if there isn't a high storm, how can Dalinar turn up?
Exactly. And so, because of how injured the pursuer is, and he's on his lost body, he runs. And he just runs away.
Not before Kaladin tears into him.
Oh, yeah. And like, looks around at, like, the crowd, and it's, like, massive, going up multiple floors, and there's just, like, thousands watching at this point, and he's like, are you not entertained? And, like, proper just, and Lezian runs away. Because he's a loser.
And now he's the defeated one.
He's the defeated one.
And he will never recover his reputation again.
Nope, he definitely won't. And Kaladin, like, looks around and he's looking at the infirmary, and he's like, why have the Radiants not escaped here? What's going on? What's happening? So as he's heading towards the infirmary, he's like, oh, the door's open, and then Teft's body just drops down in front of him, and Moash is like, hey, Kaladin, how's it going?
Bridge 4!
Bridge 4! Oh my god, does he do the Bridge 4 salute?
No, he doesn't.
Oh, that would have been rubbing it in.
Do you know what? I feel like if he had, Kaladin would have just snapped there and then and gone for him.
Yeah.
So I'm quite glad he held back and finally accepted he is not a member of Bridge 4.
So yeah, this breaks Kaladin, and Kaladin just falls to his knees and just freezes up completely. What's the you wrote the line down? I liked it. He is done. Leaving me is done. And Moash is like, says to all the singers, like, leave him, he is done. Don't like try and kill him, because if you do, he will rise. And what he says is he gets Liren, and he gives Liren to the pursuer, who's come back now after renewing his void light. And he gives Liren to the pursuer and says, hey, if he gets up and tries to do anything, like, just kill his dad in front of him immediately. Just immediately kill his dad. And it's like, oh boy.
In retrieving Liren, he also broke the final node, so the tower is now completely corruptible. The shields are all gone.
Shield's completely down now.
So then we cut back to Navani, who is in her room, and Raboniel dismisses all the guards. And Navani's like, oh, okay.
You here to kill me?
Time to escape.
Yeah.
And she's about to walk out, and she's like, no, I need a magnet first. So she goes and finds a magnet from the floor, and she slowly creeps towards the pillar because the shields are now down, which is why the guards have gone, because they've gone to report that all's good. Down. And Raboniel stood at the pillar, obviously corrupting it.
Yeah.
So Navani takes her magnet and she clicks it against the side of a crate, and she slowly walks towards Raboniel. And Raboniel's like, human queen, go, run. Like, dude's coming back for you. You may as well run now, and we can both just pretend that I didn't realise you had gone.
Yeah.
And she's like, why would you save me? And she's like, I can appreciate a good scholar. Now go. Like, take the notes that we made and go and help your people. Like, just leave.
Yeah.
And Navani's like, don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
And she's like, look, I got a shiny dagger. And Raboniel was like, yeah, good luck trying to kill me with it. And Navani's like, thanks. And she's like, tell you what, let's make a deal. We're both going to go. We're going to sit in my bedroom. I will give you this dagger. And if Kaladin has been defeated, I will surrender and all is good. If Kaladin comes to save me, I have won and you will give me all of the research and you will leave the sibling alone.
Yeah.
And Raboniel's like, yeah, that sounds pretty decent.
I respect you, so I'll agree to this.
Yeah, good deal.
Yeah.
So she takes the knife from Navani and she walks towards Navani's room, and Navani follows at a very, very slight distance.
Just a little look what's just behind.
And Raboniel walks past the trap. So then we get sad Kaladin being sad over Tef's dead body.
Yeah. He's a sad boy.
Understandably.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we cut back to Navani. They are both on the ground. They've been immobilised by the pain reel that has been triggered by Raboniel walking past. But Navani tests these things on herself, so she knows what the pain's like and how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So she crawls over, she grabs a knife, and she stabs Raboniel with the knife. But unlike when her daughter was stabbed, her eyes haven't gone white. They are still very much there. She's alive still.
But just very much immobilised.
Well, what it's done is it's cut off her connection to Roshar. So she can't hear the rhythms anymore.
Yeah.
And she knows that she is going to die from this. Yeah. But she's going to end up being reborn. But because she's now cut off, she's going to come back crazy. And so she's a little bit panicked by this, because obviously she doesn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
And she tells Navani, just, take the notebooks, finish this fight, make sure that somebody wins, and at least that way it'll be over for good. And just as Navani is about to go and do that, a knife is thrown and it hits her in the side, and now she is severely bleeding because Moash is back and he's coming for her.
Yep.
So she runs to the pillar.
Then we switch back to Venli, who's watching sad Kaladin being sad Kaladin, and Timber is inside of her being like, hey, show who you are, let Leshwi know who you are, because she's with Leshwi at this point. Yeah, it's a bit...
so sad. Sad cow.
The pursuer gives Lirin to Leshwi to be like, hey, you look after this, I got something to do, and Leshwi's like, mate, you're done, your reputation's gone. He's like, no, it's not, I'm gonna prove it. And so then he stands over Kaladin with one of his carapace knives, and Kaladin just messes him up. He goes absolutely balls to the wall on the pursuer. His eyes are glowing yellow and red, which is funky. And
very odium of him.
And he he completely messes him up. He gets him back on his final body, and he lashes him to the wall, and then lashes to the window, and then lashes to the window, and his head to the wall,
to the floor,
to the floor, and then just lashes the pursuer's head to the floor and just tears it off. And I'm like, that is brutal.
It's very Kaladin of him.
Very Kaladin. Kaladin likes to put on a show. Leshwi has cut the bonds on Lyran's hand, basically. Not letting him go, but just kind of like holding on to him, like not really keeping him prisoner.
I'd say she's sort of more keeping him safe at this point.
Yeah.
And then she hands him, just before this fight, she had handed him to one of the other Heavenly Ones to look after.
To look after him.
While she stood up to the pursuer.
Yeah.
But now the pursuer's dead.
Yeah. And just before the pursuer died, he did order his soldiers to kill Kaladin, or just to start killing him and the Radiants. Kaladin takes issue with this and does something about it. And whilst this ruckus is happening, the Heavenly One with Lyran sees Kaladin coming for him and flies off because he's panics and flies up. Kaladin gives chase with his Superman hand.
Zip, zip.
Yep. And they get to the top of the tower, and the Heavenly One is there, and he panics and throws Lyran off the tower.
Drops him. He doesn't throw him. He panics and he drops him.
Yes, because this Heavenly One is awful.
He just doesn't know what he's doing.
They've been at this for thousands of years. He should do.
He wasn't expecting to not know what side he was on. Because in his defense, he has just seen Kaladin destroy the pursuer.
Yeah.
And he does not want to also meet that fate. And he
also does not want to have that happen to him. Oh, and then Kaladin jumps after his dad, because of course he does.
Right. So, we then go back to Navani. She's now just got to the pillar. She's all touching it up. And Moash is pursuing her. And he steps over Bonyel's body. It's not a body. And she starts fucking him up. She goes absolutely mental, stabbing him. And she's draining all of his stormlight out of him.
Yeah.
And she's slowing him down.
Yeah.
And during this, she touches the pillar.
Navani.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she can hear the rhythm of war.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Dalinar, who is flying with the Windrunners.
Yeah. They've got a few of them.
Haven't encountered them at all this book. I forgot what they were.
Are those flying people again?
Yeah. Well, they've all been asleep.
Yeah, I know.
So he's flying with them off to Ishar, and they've got Zeph with them as well, because obviously you don't go anywhere without Nightblood.
No.
And then as he's flying, the Stormfather materializes as a spren next to him.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Okay.
He kind of looks like Dalinar, but wind version.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Because he doesn't normally appear in human form. He normally is just a storm.
He appears as a human form?
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't pick up on that.
I believe that's how I read it.
Sorry, I'm really interesting to me. You keep talking.
That's fine. And he's like, the son of Tanavast is in trouble. He has entered the storm for the last time. So Dalinar's like, show me. Mm-hmm. So he takes him to go watch Kaladin. And Kaladin is falling. And Kaladin is talking to Syl. And he's like, I've forgotten the words. He's holding hands with Syl as he falls. And he's like, I'm not strong enough. I don't know the words. And then he lets go of Syl's hand. And he says, and then Dalinar's like, we need to help him.
Yeah.
And Stormfather's like, no, we just witness. And he's like, no. We need to do something. When you pull people into your visions, does it stop time? He's like, it slows it down dramatically. And he's like, right, do that. So he pulls Kaladin into that to try and give Kaladin more time, because Kaladin needs time. And then we cut to Venli, who is singing to agony because the slaughter has begun.
Yeah.
But what has happened is all of the humans in the tower have now congregated in front of the Radiant's infirmary room.
Yeah.
And they are blocking the fused as best they can.
Yeah.
But the pursuers' men are quite adamant that they are getting in there. And then he's like, what can we do? Can we help them? Can we stop them? And Lesh was like, we need Rabonio's authority. Like, I can't do anything because as of last night, they're not under my protections anymore because Leshwi needed to experiment.
Yeah.
Rabonio needed to experiment. So the protection order on them is now void. We need her to come and do something.
Yeah.
So Leshwi sends a couple of guards after them. And then Timber's like, just show her. So Venli draws in Stormlight.
Yeah.
At which point Leshwi just grabs her and they both collapse onto the floor.
Yeah.
It's so good. And then Kaladin is now falling in darkness, but he's sort of like stopped mid-air fall, and he's in all darkness. And he's talking to the Stormfather, and Kaladin admits that he's close to giving in, and the Stormfather's like, well, would you really harm my daughter like that?
Yeah.
And Kaladin's like, no, I can't, you know. Although I'm close, I could never get close enough to fall to Odium. But I'm too weak, I can't say the words. And Stormfather's like, just say the words!
Say the words, man!
And then Dalinar's like, no, we need more. Can we connect him to a vision? And the Stormfather's like, well, I need a vision to connect him to.
Which vision?
So I'll let you do the vision. Because I can't talk about this without crying.
Neither can I!
Oh.
We're skipping that vision because we don't want to cry.
The next chapter does not happen. Kaladin is just magically okay. Life is good again.
So, okay, I'll do it.
Thank you, because I can't.
Dalinar then does something, and Stormfather's like, what are you doing? And Dalinar's like, I'm forging a connection. And connects Kaladin, I guess, to his past. So Kaladin, after Dalinar forges that, Kaladin then wakes up in a tent with a young boy. They're on that battlefield on the day that Tien died. The squad leaders like send the messenger boys out with spears. So they get like spears shoved at them, and they're like, we don't know what to do. And then Tien like volunteers to go with them because he didn't want them to be alone when on the battlefield.
And then he's hugging Kaladin.
Yeah.
And Kaladin's like, it's me, and Tien's like, I know, I wanted you to feel brave.
Yeah. He's like, we have to be together so we can do this. We all die, but you need to remember the good as well as the bad. And says, you are strong enough, Kaladin, you are good enough. I'm here with you. And he gives him the little wooden horse that he made him. And Kaladin says the words that there are those I accept that there will be those I cannot protect, and the Stormfather accepts them, and it's like, heck yeah! This was such a good bit. This was
horrible.
This was my first big cry.
I cried so much.
This was a big one. Yeah. This was a big one. Kaladin saying that fourth oath, and I just wasn't expecting Tien to come back, and I just wasn't expecting to have Tien having such an emotional reaction to that. Like,
I struggled that one. It was
rough.
Yeah,
it was rough.
So rough.
But yes, he said the words, and like 1,000 lights around him explode.
Yeah. So after that emotional roller coaster, we go back to Venli. And Leshwi's grabbing her face, and she's like, Venli, what have you done? And Venli's like, I'm sorry. And Leshwi's like, sorry? Why are you sorry? They've returned to us. And like Joyce Spren are coming out, and she's like, does yours know Rhea? And she's like,
who's Rhea?
Who? And she's like, she's my friend. She's an honor Spren. We used to be friends. And she's like, she doesn't. All of the honor Spren from your time are dead.
Yeah.
And she's like, there are others that want to bond with us, like, we can have them back again.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, they do. They want to come and join with us. Leshwi's like, well, I can't. I'm too far gone. I've been connected to Odium too long. And then Leshwi stands up and she goes over to the fight and she tries to stop them from killing the humans. And when they won't stop, she pulls her sword out and she starts fighting with the humans. And all of her other guards join in and they protect the humans.
They attack the pursuers' troops.
Yeah. And then the sibling and Navani are like together because she's obviously touching it. And the sibling shows her the discord that's happening in the atrium.
Yeah.
And she's like, what's going on here? Why are the singers fighting with the humans?
Yeah.
Like,
what is happening?
What's happening? And Navani's like, they found an emulsifier. And the sibling's like, you what?
He's like, what?
And she's like, look, they found a common goal. They're working together to achieve the common goal of protecting the Radiant.
Protecting innocent, like, protecting helpless people.
And then she's like, look, Relaine is there. And the sibling's like, yeah, but it's too late and he's too far away. So Navani's like, take me, bond with me. They are like, you are not worthy. And then we then cut to Relaine, who's just arrived at the atrium, and he sees the civil war happening. But the human side have just won.
Yeah.
And they start, well, him and David being, like, war people, soldiers.
That's the word you're looking for.
They get to work providing treatment for the fallen from either side, because that's what they do. And David goes into the infirmary, brings back supplies, and he brings back Hesina, who is completely shaken in recounting what's going on, like in the fact that Kaladin has gone after Lirin and she doesn't know what's happened to them. But she wants something to do to distract her, so they all get to work treating people. And then the patients that Kaladin's been helping with their mental health issues sort of like grab Relaine and David and they take them over to Tef's body so they know what's happened.
Yeah.
And they mourn for a minute. And then Relaine looks over and the humans and the Fused are arguing because the Fused want the humans to submit to them so they can pretend that this was just a small incident that's been dealt with and everyone's fine now and everyone's happy and it's all back to Odium and it's all good.
It's all good.
But obviously the humans don't want to be ruled by the Fused anymore, so they're like, no, why should we?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think this fight's about?
Yeah, we weren't fighting them for fun, guys.
So Relaine goes and he takes control of the situation and he's like, look, we all know that if Odium does come about, like, once Raboniel comes up here, everyone is going to be in for it. She's not going to forgive you that have fought alongside the humans. She's not going to forgive the humans because, you know, they're humans. We've all just got to leave. And he's like, look, we're going to grab the Radiants, grab your things, we will all go to the Shattered Plains.
Yeah.
And we will just leave because we have to get out of here now. And so they set about doing that.
Yeah. So then, switching back to Navani, she's like arguing with the tower, saying, take me, I am worthy. And says the oath to the tower. And the tower's like, no, I'm not accepting these. Like, no. So Navani then closes her eyes and just starts humming the Anti-Void Light song to rid the sibling of the Void Light that Raboniel's been putting into her. And this also has the good effect of stopping Morash where he stood. Like, Morash is so connected to Odium that the song, Anti-Void Light song, has the physical effect on him. Once the sibling seems to be cleared, the sibling says that they can't hear Honor anymore and that he's dead. And Navani says, no, he lives on within men. And she begins to sing the song, Honor's song, And then the sibling starts to sing Cultivations, and they slowly bring it closer and closer till they start singing the Tower song. The song of the Tower.
Tower Light.
With Tower Light. And finally, the Tower says, "I accept your words, Navani." And Navani says, "Journey before destination, you bastard." Oh, and then light goes everywhere. Woo! We then switch to Lyrin's point of view. And Lyrin is suspended in the storm and looks up to see Kaladin standing in like full glowing shard plate, and like
with the Bridge 4 logo on it.
With the Bridge 4 logo on it instead of Windrunners, which is like so good. And Lyrin's like, he cutting that a bit close because they're like 10 feet off the ground, and I can't remember what Kaladin says. Something about, I don't know, wizards being on time or something. I don't know.
But they hug.
But then they hug, and they like hug it out, and Kaladin sees that Lyrin has the Shash brand on his forehead, just like all the other people, because Lyrin finally, believed in his son. And Kaladin's flake off his head, because he's finally healed his slave brands. Because he doesn't see himself as a slave anymore.
But I wanted him to keep them.
I know
they made him so sexy.
I know you found him sexy, but they were slave brands, Lucy. And those aren't good. So then after that, we're back flying with the Windrunners. They go check out Ishar, and they turn up. They land, and Ishar comes out, and he's like, his army's moved on, but his big tent and a couple like a ring of his soldiers are there, and they have a little confrontation. And Ishar is very clearly not sane. He says, "Champion of Odium, I am honor, and your lies do not fool me." When Dalinar tries to be like, "Hey, I'm the new bondsmith, you need to teach me how to be a bondsmith because I don't know how to be a bondsmith." Dalinar tells Ishar that he's spoken to Ash and he's spoken to Tal, and he knows that Yezreen is dead, and that like they need to do something. And then in response, Ishar summons his honor blade, which Szeth is unhappy about because he's like, "That's my dad's blade. Where did you get that?"
Your dad.
Your dad, mate.
And then we cut back to R'lain, and the others. They're now leaving. Well, they're trying to leave. When all of a sudden those floor ones come up from the floor and the heavenly ones float down.
Yeah.
And they are singing the Song of Execution.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Celestial's like, well, there's only one way out. We are fighting. So they get ready to fight, and R'lain's like, "Hey, Venli, you got any more of them spren?" And she's like, "I do." And they want to bond, but they can't bond with you because you're already taken. And he's like, "Yeah, but the wind spren didn't want me." And that's when all of a sudden the stained glass windows appear from the floor.
Yeah.
And a little corrupted spren's like, "Hey, hi, your friend Renarin sent me, and I'm yours now."
Yeah, yeah.
Which makes me so happy.
Yeah.
But then I realise the implications of it, and now I'm not happy no more.
So,
right, I will.
Do you want to?
I do.
Okay.
So, earlier on in the book, R'lain talks about how he once took mate form, and it didn't go well for him.
It didn't go as expected.
And Renarin has been said
recently
by Brandon that Renarin has a crush on somebody, but hasn't said who. And I have a feeling we've just discovered who his crush is.
They're gonna be boyfriends. They're gonna be boyfriends.
I'm genuinely upset about it.
I know.
But not in a, like, I don't want them to be together. Because actually I'm very happy if they do end up together. I just really wanted Renarin.
I know. You wanted him for yourself,
I did,
you? So.
And now he's not mine.
Yeah.
And as happy as I am for him, I really love Renarin. And like, if that is where it's going, that's fine. Like, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna need some time to get over it. Because as excited as I am for like more corrupted Spren, and as excited I am for like my Shadow Knights Radiant, and as excited I am for them two to be together.
Yeah.
I now have to accept the fact that
you're never going to be with
I'm
Renarin.
Never going to be with Renarin, and that's hard for me. So I'm just going to need a bit of time.
Yeah. So we switch back to the Ishar fight, where Ishar is fighting the hell out of all the Windrunners. And he is like, he knows where they're going to be before they know where they're going to be. A lot of people compared it to, you know, how when someone burns atium.
Oh, yeah.
Like, can he connect to their futures? Ooh. And, and, like, have a bit of fortune and, like, you know. Yeah.
Maybe he just likes to burn atium in his spare time. Maybe he just likes
to burn atium in his spare time.
We know it used to get traded.
It did used to get traded. So, yes, Ishar is an absolute monster on the battlefield. And, like, there's, like, multiple Radiants fighting him, and he just dances through them like they're nothing.
Because they are nothing.
They are nothing. And I just love the fact, he says, I think Dalinar says something to the Stormfather, I don't know if it's this scene or another scene, being like, man, Ishar's really good at fighting, and Dalinar, the Stormfather's like, he's not even the best one.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh boy, Taln. And I'm so excited for Taln. I just want more Taln. I am very excited for Taln. So Ishar, then, he connects the Radiance to the ground and makes the Stormlight within them think that the ground is part of their body, so the Stormlight flows into the ground. And it's like, damn, okay, that's a crazy power that you've got right there.
Yeah.
So in order to try and help, Dalinar opens the perpendicularity, at which point Ishar's like, how the hell did you do that? And he's like, I bonded the Stormfather, I told you this. And Ishar's like, oh yes, I see you bonded the Stormfather. I'll have that, please. Thank you very much. And, like,
what does Odium want with him?
Yeah, and so, like, starts taking the bond into himself. At which point, this is when Seth recovers from the shock of seeing his dad's blade in Ishar's hands, and, like, stops that from happening. And
by closing the perpendicularity using Nightblood.
Yes, he uses Nightblood to close the perpendicularity, and
let him have a drink.
You know, just give him some hors d'oeuvres for the upcoming meal. And Zeth then is all like, how did you get that blade? That was my father's blade. Where did you get it? And Isha said, oh, he gave it to me right after he thanked me for killing him. And it's
right
like...
before.
Oh, sorry.
You can't thank someone once you're dead.
Tell that to Kelsia.
You know everyone's a sore spot.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mistborn. Era 2 does not exist.
Then, after that, Ishar gets like a moment of lucidity. And so he opens a perpendicularity to Shadesmar, sends his soldiers through, and says, hey, come find me in Shadesmar. And I will... Shinovar. And I will reset the Oath Pact. You know, we need to defeat Odium. Because this is something interesting that has been pointed out to me. That, do you remember when Taln recovered his... You know how Taln was okay near the end of Oathbringer for like a few minutes? Like, he suddenly was like lucid again.
Yeah.
It happened when Dalinar swore an oath to the Stormfather. And this happened, so Ishar was healed momentarily
when
because Navani swore to the sibling. Yeah, so the bondsmith.
Well, it says like he specifically says someone must have sworn.
Ah, okay,
an oath to
a bondsmith oath.
A bondsmith oath, because when they're sworn, we get a moment of clarity.
I didn't even notice he said that. Yeah. Someone pointed that to me afterwards. Cool. And so then he leaves, and he leaves with his army, and the Windrunners like fly down or up, and they just kind of wait to see if he comes back, because they're like, that was bad, that was scary.
Well, it's more, he obviously wasn't expecting to have to bow out through Shadesmar.
Yeah.
So he left in a hurry, which means that in that big old tent, he's left things behind for them to go and explore.
Things.
Many a thing.
Many a thing.
So Navani and the sibling are now creating a lot of tower light. And Moash flees holding an arm in front of his eyes. And Navani is sort of searching through, because now that she can see the whole tower, she can see all the rooms and the fabrials and stuff. She's searching for a way to vent the void light out. So her plan is to fill the entire tower with tower light and then push the void light into like a little part. Yeah. And then hit it with the anti-void light tune to disperse it. So that is her plan, and that's what she's doing. And as she's doing this, she sees Kaladin flying towards the pillar. So she's like, Kaladin, no.
Halt.
Go to the market, you're needed there. And Kaladin's like, yes, queen. So he flies off to the market to go and help out in the market.
So Dalinar is now Dalinar and his group are sure that Ishar isn't coming back. So they go and check out his tent. And you guys remember what's in his tent? There's like a body on like a thing. And it's like blue, but it's like human. And they're like, this is kind of weird. And then they look around.
I thought it was an alien.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously it's got the slightly blue tinge to the skin. So I was like, they've been experimenting on aliens. And then they pull up a couple more. And then they
reveal a cloth, and
it's not an alien.
The description of the intestine-like tendrils sitting atop one of their shoulders with weird black carapace.
That's long thin hands.
That's going to stick with me for a while. That is probably the closest I've come to throwing up whilst reading like horror. Like that is proper body horror to me. It's fine. So yeah, Brandon just really wanted us to be absolutely sickened from what we were reading.
In the nicest way, I don't think you were supposed to read this bit and go,
wow, cool.
What cool experiments. Wish I could do that.
Yeah, so it looks like Ishar was pulling Spren into the physical realm, but like physically, connecting them like to become physical beings as opposed to cognitive beings. And that's had results that were interesting. I was actually quite surprised. So they've got like a list of how well it went for some of them. Some of them obviously terrible. Peak Spren, they're just made of stone, so they'll just fall apart.
I was going to say something like an ink Spren where it's not really got human, physical features.
Yeah.
Sorry, not ink Spren. Cryptics.
Yeah.
They obviously don't have any physical features. They fell apart immediately.
Yeah.
Whereas the Honor Spren that manifest as humans.
Yeah.
Obviously lasted a little bit longer.
I have a feeling. Does it say anything about their clothes? Because in my head, an Honor Spren would be able to, like, if you pulled an Honor Spren in, and it would just be okay.
Yeah.
Like, it would be pretty okay. You know, in Shadesmar, the blue stuff physically feels like skin and flesh. So, like,
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's
because... The clothes had all been ripped off. And, like, the clothing had been, like, cut and torn and was, like, lying...
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if because for Ink Spren, sort of for Honor Spren, because their clothing is part of their blueness, I wonder if like it became part of their skin, and that's why they survived. So if an Ink Spren was naked,
did. I think it was manifested as cloth.
Yeah.
But obviously in Shadesmar, they take on human physicalities, whereas the others don't.
The others don't. So that's why I said I understand why the others die very quickly.
Yeah.
But I feel like Honor Spren should have been okay. And they said Honor Spren were the ones that survived the longest. But I guess it's one of the things where you've never had to breathe before, so maybe they don't realise that you're supposed to breathe all the time. And they're like, man, that's really inconvenient to have to breathe every second.
But again, like, obviously they don't understand what's going on, so and they're not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And I think they know they're not supposed to be there. Like, I think they don't want to survive.
Yeah.
It's been some interesting...
It has. It's this. The point I made on a podcast was, especially for the cryptics, where it's like, you've never had lungs before, you've never needed to have lungs before, and then suddenly you have lungs, and like... do you know how to use those properly? And you probably don't. So, and the cryptics don't have a way of using them because they don't have a head.
Yeah.
So, Anyway, this was horrifying. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks.
I thought it was quite cool.
Okay. Oh, Little Miss. You're not supposed to come in here and be like, oh, it's kind of cool. Little Miss, oh, that's quite cool, actually.
But, like... So obviously he's been experimenting with them, trying to work something out.
Yeah.
So I thought that potentially he was trying to manifest a Spren army, because obviously before they always needed to bond with a human in order to come through. I thought that maybe because he knew that he didn't have a lot of humans to fight, he was trying to bring them in themselves so that he could use them as his soldiers to fight against Odium. Because obviously they weren't bonding with his people. And so he just wanted to bring them through to be soldiers to fight without humans being bonded to them.
Yeah.
Whereas I then preferred your theory.
Yeah, so mine is that he's doing these experiments of bringing cognitive beings into the physical because it's something he wants to do with himself. Because even though he has a body, the heralds are cognitive shadows. They're cognitive beings. He just has a body that looks like his old body. And just like the fused have bodies that belong to other people and, you know, that kind of thing. I'm undecided. I like the idea that he's doing this to become honor, because Kelsier wasn't able to hold preservation very well because he was just a cognitive shadow. And so I wonder if Ishar's trying to become human again so that he can reunite the bits of honor and become honor again. And
but he is honor.
But that's the thing. That's the argument that someone had, is that he already thinks himself honor, so why would he try and become honor?
I think it's one of those like delusions of grandeur where he wanted to be honor, so he's convinced himself that he's honor.
Yeah.
And because he is a little bit crazy after all these years, he's started to believe that he is.
That's the thing, is like, you could argue, that reasoning kind of doesn't make sense, but he is crazy, so it doesn't have to make perfect sense.
Crazy.
The other theory I've seen is that he wants to die finally, but my problem with that theory is that I don't think he wants to die. No. He doesn't strike me as the type, like, Kalek is trying to run away,
Ash is trying to stay hidden.
Taln
is just trying to be Taln.
Taln is just Taln. I don't think he is trying to either escape or die. I think he's trying to become the thing he says he is, trying to become honor.
100%.
Yeah.
So then we go to Aiden, who is part of the group of people that are escaping. His dad's one of the injured. So what's happened is, with the fuse coming to attack them, they've pushed all of the women and children and injured people into the middle, and they formed a ring around them.
Yeah.
So he's gone to be on the outer ring, and he's like, no, I know I hid last time, but I can be strong. I'm going to earn my spren this time. And then Darby sort of like moves him aside and like stands in front of him.
Yeah.
So cute. I love him.
David is the best.
If he could be in a relationship with Renarin instead, that'd be great. So then the fighting starts, and he ends up fighting with one of the fused, who has him pinned to the ground and is about to deliver the killing blow. And there's when all of a sudden his weapon encounters Aiden's shard plate. And Aiden's like, oh no, I'm a Radiant, I'm so cool.
I got shard plate.
And then the shard plate vanishes, and it like forms in front of someone else who's about to get stabbed. And like the shard plate is like magically like helping everyone. And they look up, and Kaladin is there.
Yeah.
So cool.
This is like an element of shard plate I never would have thought happen. Like, how cool is this?
So like, cool. I love this. And then Kaladin's like, you have been defeated. The tower is ours again. Like, the Radiants start to wake up, and the fused fall to the ground asleep.
Yes.
And the ones in the floor are now trapped in the floor.
Yep.
So they now have this lovely patch of fused flooring.
Yeah. Oh man, like, I was going to say, you're going to have to like cut them out of the stone, but like...
You can't.
because they're fused to the stone.
This is now like...
You're going to have to
feature.
Remove the whole section of stone.
No, this is now like a feature flooring in the marketplace.
Oh, yeah.
Which I look forward to continuing to be there.
Yeah.
And then we then cut to Moash, who is fleeing. His pain has returned to him, so he's not too happy. He manages to get carried away by one of the fleeing heavenly ones.
Yeah.
And the further he gets from the tower, his unfeeling comes back.
Yeah.
His body starts to heal itself, except he is now blind. Yay.
Yeah.
I've never been happier.
Oh yes, then Dalinar. Then we switch back to Dalinar, who's head back to the camp to report what's happened, and he returns to some good-ass news that the tower has been taken back and all the spam reads are working, and it's a great time.
Navani saved them.
Navani saved them, because Navani's the best. And then Odium appears. Lucy was cold, so she's got a blanket.
I just turned to stone. I blame Venli.
So yes, Odium appears, and he's not doing too great. When Tanavar said that Dalinar had to like force him to make a contest of champions, they forced him. He is like forced now to make a pact, and so they have a nice little back and forth, which was really interesting. It was really fascinating reading into Odium's way of thinking here, because like there's stuff where he's like, no, I will not budge on that, but then there's other stuff he's like, okay, I'll budge on that, and I'm like, I just find it really interesting, like what it was that he values. So there's a couple of interesting things in this scene. Firstly, he notices that Sephandrius was the one that wrote the original contract, and he's like that little that weasel, I'll get him. And
I'm glad he's hiding in my system now.
He's like, good, I know he's here. Not that he's going to be able to do anything about it. And then he tells Dalinar what his plan is for Roshar, which was fascinating because it appears that Roshar holds the most powerful magic users in the Cosmere. Like, Surge Binding seems to be a level... It was always known that Surge Binding is, like, well above, like, Allomancy. Like, Surge Bind is generally on a power level above Allomancy. And just, like, the ease of accessibility of that power as well. And so he wants to use Roshar as his, like, breeding ground for soldiers in the coming war with other worlds that's going to happen eventually. Which is fascinating and is ripping off the storyline to Dune, if you've read Dune.
I've not.
You've not, but you're going to watch the movie. Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that because that's going to spoil the movie for Lucy.
Thanks.
Well done, me.
You just like spoiling things.
I just like spoiling things, but just for Lucy. They have a good back and forth. I really like this back and forth where they come to the terms of the agreement. So the terms are, they will both have champions will meet in 10 days' time. Sorry, well, technically it will be 11 days' time because it's technically the day before the next month, and it's a text at the 10 days in the next month. So the 10th day of the next month, they're going to have two champions unaccosted by anyone's forces will meet atop the tower. They will fight to the death, and if Dalinar wins, Odium will retreat back to to his lands, except for Alethkar and Herdaz, which he'll return to Dalinar's forces, and will not work to hamper. Will cease hostilities and will not work to hamper Dalinar's side at all. If Odium wins, he will still return to his lands and cease hostilities, but he won't return Alethkar and Herdaz, but he gets Dalinar's soul as a fused. Odium agreed. These are terrible terms for Odium. Like, oh my god. They are, like, essentially, he said, yeah, I'm going to stop fighting no matter what, but if I win, I get you, and if I don't, you get Alethkar and Herdaz. I'm like, that's yeah. These are terrible terms, but Odium is desperate.
I don't think they're that terrible, because he ultimately still gets his goal.
Yeah.
Of being able to train up an army.
Yeah.
Like, although he wouldn't be able to leave and take it, he would be able to send it to the other planets.
I think what's interesting to me as well is he says he'll cease hostilities and he won't help his side anymore. But then earlier on, when Dalinar says you take the fused back to Braze and you tell them to stop doing things, he specifically says, I don't control them. They are their own people now. Yeah. They have the Everstorm instead of me. I don't control them. And so even though Odium has to stop hostilities, the fused and the regals can still keep fighting, which I thought was interesting. So yeah, these are the terrible terms of this agreement. And so
it's all right because it means that he has to take Moash back to Drace, and we finally get rid of Moash.
What I like as well, what I thought was really interesting, which makes loopholes really hard to do, is Odium agreed to the spirit of the contract as well as the letter of the contract, which basically means he agreed to the idea that the contract's trying to convey, not just the specific wording, which means even if you find like loopholes, it's, you know, thing. Oh, it also has to be a willing champion as well.
Yeah, which I've got some theories.
We've got theories. But yeah, we're going to talk about those theories at the end.
So then we go to Navani, who is with the sibling, and they're talking about how their bond is strange. And she's like, they're sort of discussing the terms of their bond, because neither of them really wanted to bond each other.
Yeah.
They kind of did it because they needed to. Yeah. But she's talking about how they can compromise and they can make each other better and be better people. And then she goes over to Raboniel, who is somehow still alive. After being stabbed with anti-void light and being torn apart by Moash's blade.
Yeah.
She's still alive.
Raboniel's.
So she begs Navani to kill her so that she's not reborn.
Yeah.
And she says, look, go to my desk. In the drawer, I've got some anti-void light spheres. Use one, kill me. Everything that you could need to end this war is in my desk. Use it, end the war. And Navani's like, but don't you want
your side to win?
Don't you want your side to win? And she's like, of course I do, but humans winning wouldn't be the worst thing in the world as long as this war was over. And she just says how she's upset that she can't hear the rhythms anymore. So Navani and her sing together one last time before she kills her. Yeah. And it's really, really cute.
I loved Raboniel's story. I think Raboniel is the best one-book character Brandon's ever written.
Yeah.
Like, just absolute incredible character. Yeah. I wouldn't even call her one of the villains of this book because she's basically one of the protagonists as well. Like, she is just...
She's a character.
She's a character. She's one of the cast. And I love Raboniel.
So then we go to Taravangian on a dumb day, and Zeph. It's a dumb day.
It's a dumb day. You guys remember this bit.
Zeph turns up, and he's like, did you know my dad was dead? And Taravangian's like, who are you? And then Zeph is like pulling his things, and he's like, no, don't break those void spears. So Zeph obviously throws them against the wall and cracks them open.
Yeah.
And he's like, Odium is on his way. What did I need to do?
It's like, I needed to do something.
And Zeph is stabbing him and like slowly like killing him.
Yeah.
And then he gets pulled into Odium and he's like, Odium is here.
And Odium's like furious. Odium's like, and another champion gone.
He's like, Blade is here.
Yes.
He's like, hey, Odium, stabbed you.
He pulls out that Nightblood and he gives, Race a good stabbing.
And now Raze is dead.
Yeah.
But like, so dead that he's just a pile of charred bones.
Yes.
And then Taravangian is also dead because Zeph has killed him.
Yes.
But then the Shard talks to Taravangian and he's like, hey,
pulls him in.
Pick me up. Take me. So Taravangian takes up Odium
and ascends. And he's like, oh boy.
I couldn't think of a worse person to be in charge of that shard.
Oh yeah. We then switch back to Relaine at Ethereal, who's with Venli at the Oath Gates. Her and a bunch of the singers that, turned away from Odium, and the Fuse that also, Leshwi and all the group that fought against the Pursuers' troops, they're all leaving to go join the Listeners on the east of the plains.
They're going to make their own civilization.
They're going to do exactly what you wanted them to do. They're going to make their own, do their little thing.
I wanted Kaladin with them.
Yeah. And so Relaine's like, I'm going to hang around here for a little while because, these people need me. I'm still one of them. And I've
got to make sure they don't kill us again.
Yeah, and I've got to go hang out with my boyfriend. And
yes.
No, but yes, but no. And they have a funeral for Teft, which is sad. And then
please tell me you're going to talk about what happens at the funeral.
I don't remember his funeral at all. I don't even remember that. I didn't remember the headline.
They give him a hero's funeral. He gets turned to stone, and they say that they've commissioned a stone worker to create a
one of Fenderana as well. Yes, I remember that. Yes.
And there's a special room in Eretheria that's been locked away where they put their dead Radiants, and he's gone to join them. And no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't stop his body from scowling. So now he's in there scowling all the old Radiants. It's adorable.
That is absolutely adorable.
I know. How could you not remember?
I honestly completely forgot about that.
And then they go out drinking.
And they have a great time. Because that's what you should do after a funeral. Is you should get wasted with the people you love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Odium. Yeah. So Taravangian is now Odium, and and he's like looking at the myriad of possibilities and all the plans that Odium had put up. I imagine, you know, in the Matrix when there's the big white void and then all of like the racks of guns appear. I always imagine like that, like where the racks of plans appear. It's all like notice boards with writing all over them. And he's like looking at all the possibilities when Cultivation appears. Good old Corvellium Avast, if you guys missed that. Her name is in this book. And he sees her, he sees the form she takes on, but like also sees that she's got many forms, and one that is truer than them all. So Cultivation is totally a dragon. So Cultivation was like, hey, I'm so glad that this worked out. This was all great. I'm going to help you how to be a shard and show you like the ropes. And Taravangian's like, okay, I look forward to saving everyone. Saving them all from themselves. And it's like, oh no, Cultivation, what have you done? Don't know if this is going to work out for you.
Oh, this is going to be horrific.
Mm-hmm.
Because, oh boy.
Oh boy.
That shard should not be in the hands of anybody, and they should have just let it die where it was.
Yes.
And just infuse the ground rather than take them back up.
Just splinter it and just... Actually, I don't know if splintering Odium would have solved the problem. Having a bunch of small, hateful creatures running around instead of one big one might not be an improvement on the situation.
I feel like they could have, like, done what they did with that gemstone. They could have just dropped it in the middle of the ocean and just pretended it wasn't there.
Just close their eyes and just pretend it doesn't exist.
La.
Ah! Cool.
That's kind of what you need to do with Odium.
Yeah.
Or like giving it to Hoy to like go and throw out in like the middle of Shadesmar somewhere where no one's gonna stumble across it.
Yeah. So after this scene, we then switch to the scene with Shallan, where she's like writing her letter to she's not writing a letter, she's saying it to Mraize, where she's like, yep, I'm leaving the Ghostbloods. The Seon in this box told me all about what you were doing to it, and like I'm leaving the Ghostbloods. We're at war now. I'm done. And Wit told me to tell your boss that he's going to slap him up if he comes. I have a question for you, Lucy. You haven't talked about this at all, so I'm going to guess you didn't realise.
Oh no, I've realised.
What have you realised?
There is only one person that Wit can harm.
Yes.
Kelsier.
Yes.
And
what was his name? Do you remember the Thydakar's his title? His title was Lord of Scars.
Oh, it's Kelsier!
It's totally Kelsier.
I am so glad. No, it just clicked in my head just now.
Yeah.
That it's Kelsier.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that he's still about.
Yeah. And he's the leader of
not?
And he's the leader of the Ghostbloods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they'll be taking down the gods, won't they?
Yeah.
Because that's always been Kelsier's plan.
Always been Kelsier's plan.
He just wants to punch them all.
He just wants to keep working his way up the hierarchy of things to punch.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't put it past him to reunite Adonlasium just so he can punch him in the face.
Yeah. But, however, Vin's not there, so it
But also
doesn't
Vin's
count.
not there, so yeah.
But yeah, I would like some Kelsier in this book, so if he's going to suddenly turn up, that's going to be great.
I don't think he's going to turn up. I think at most we'll get him sending an avatar, whatever that means.
Well,
Avatar's got a weird meaning in the Cosmere. We don't really know what it means in the Cosmere, but we don't know if it was the Cosmere avatar or just the normal use of the words avatar, because...
Well, the thing is, like, he would be a cognitive shadow.
Yeah.
And if cognitive shadows can manifest on Roshar, because obviously the heralds can,
Yeah.
there must be a way for him to manifest.
Yes, but...
At which point,
yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if he did just turn up.
Well, the thing is
now
that
I'm going to be looking out for any description that matches his.
they specifically say he's looking for stuff on Roshar because he's got a similar affliction to what the heralds have.
Yeah.
Which is heralds can't leave Roshar. And so he can't leave Scadrial. Yeah. And so
Aww.
yeah, but he can send avatars, whatever that means.
Well, it's going to be like how the Pursuer works, where like he can like form in a body, but it's not really.
We don't know.
It'll be something like that.
It'll be
where,
something like that.
he can send like a spren or something that like he's inhabiting from a distance.
I think it might be.
I'm well up for it.
Yeah.
I'm well up for Calcia to suddenly appear.
Yeah.
Like, oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
Calcia.
I like I said, I don't think he'll play a large role in the story. He might be like.
I don't think we'll see him until back 5. Yeah. I think back
definitely.
5 is going to be dealing with the Calcia problem.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have to do it.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I feel like that's what the big war is.
For me, I don't think Brandon's going to have... You're not going to have to have read Mistborn to understand Stormlight.
Well, I don't think that you would have to, because he would be introduced as a new character.
Okay, yeah. Like introduced him as Thydekar and just always call him Thydekar. Yeah.
It would just be one of those Easter eggs that if you knew Calcia, you kind of know what's about to happen, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, but we've encountered other world hoppers, and at no point have you had to go and read the books to know exactly who they are, because they are described well enough for you to know, and it's not affected the story too greatly.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think Calcia would change a story greatly, because obviously it's been written with... well, it's been written with him in mind, so there'd already be a way to incorporate him.
Yeah.
For people that don't know who he is.
Who he is. Okay. I see what you're saying.
If he could come back with Vin, that'd be great.
He can't come back with
Because they talk about a female being his second, and if that can be Vin, that'd be great.
Do they?
Yeah.
When?
Like, Moraes' boss is a woman.
Yeah, Eotil, yeah.
Yeah. And then her boss is Calcia.
Oh, I figured she's got like another boss. I reckon there's loads of layers.
Oh, there probably are, but if Vin could be one of them, that'd be great.
Vin's gone.
No,
Vin,
bring Vin back. Spook will be in there somewhere as well.
Yeah.
Spook will be in there somewhere.
Oh, Spook might be in there. Unless he died. He might
didn't
have died.
die.
He might have died.
He became immortal and we know it. So then we go to Venli, who has now, after weeks of like searching, has now found the last of the listeners. And they're like, go away, Venli. No one likes you.
Yeah.
And she's like, please, I'm here to help this time. And they're like, what? Like last time? And she's like, look, I've got new forms. It's not all bad.
Yeah.
Yes, our gods are back. But we know how to fix this and we'll be okay. Let me come and help you and I will actually help this time.
Yeah.
Also, can I please see my mum?
Yeah.
And so they take her to see her mum. And she gives her mum one of the spren. And it goes inside her mum and she sings her mum's favourite song. And, like, there isn't a reaction because she's sort of quite far gone at this point.
Yeah.
And so Venli is talking to the others. Turns out they are now friends with the Chasm Fiends.
Yeah, which is weird.
I'm so excited for whatever this is. So now Chasm Fiends are their friends, which obviously was foreshadowed with Venli back in that flashback.
Yeah.
Coming over the top. So I don't know what's going on here, but I'm so up for it.
Yeah.
And then her mum recognises her.
He, like, grabs her wrist and is like, Venli? And he's like,
oh!
That was my second cry. That was not a big cry, but that was definitely a cry.
Oh, I've had too many to count. My first was Maya.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Maya. I love Maya.
I know.
I really do want her to, like, manifest somehow in a physical realm.
Yeah.
A little flower.
Little flower. I love your idea of like a little flower on on the lapel. That's very cute.
I know, I want it to be a thing.
We then go to Kaladin, who's at Irithiru with Dalinar. Dalinar tells him about the agreement that he made with Odium, saying, hey, yeah, we got 10 days till this champion fight, so I'm going to be my own champion, but you need to go with Zeth to Shinovar to find Ishar, because Ishar knows stuff that we need to know, and Ishar told me to go find him. Also, Shinovar is under the control of an unmade, apparently. That's what Ishar said.
So cool.
Yes. And Dalinar then gives Kaladin a flute. The flute he had, being like, oh, here's your flute from the Shadow Plains. This was yours.
Lif found it.
Lif found it. And Kaladin's like, where did Lif find it? And he's like, oh, it's just this shop in the market has it. And he's like,
And he asks if Lif's okay, because obviously he's not seen her. And Dalinar's like, well, my lunch is missing, so I'm assuming she's fine. However, she now insists on carrying around a big red chicken.
So yeah, she took on Gary's bird. So she's got Gary's bird now. So yeah.
She now has more powers.
She now has more powers. We then switch to our pursuer point of view. Do you remember last week when you were complaining? You were like, even the pursuer gets a point of view, and I was like, the pursuer gets a point of view, and then I remembered, this is it. So they're looking over Kolinar in like the new spiky palace that they've built in Kolinar, and Elle is there, and Elle is an interesting character. Elle is forbidden the rhythms. So Elle doesn't have a title. He's not allowed to attune any rhythms. I like Elle. And he like has cut off, whenever he takes a body, he cuts off the carapace and replaces it with metal.
So, Elle replaces his carapace with metal. I wonder if it's like a type of metal that can stop shard blades.
Yeah, it would be aluminium if it was that, yeah.
It can't be cut with shard blades. Because why else would you do that?
Other than to be cool as hell. Like,
I know it's cool and all.
It's cool.
But like the only purpose I can see for replacing your carapace with metal and then like fusing it into you is to stop yourself being cut up by a shard plate.
Yeah.
So, oh boy, he's pretty much got built-in shard plate.
Yes. I have my theories on Elle. Firstly, there's only 2 fused left. We've never seen a tension fused or a division fused. And so I think he's a division fused, so I think he's going to be able to like blow stuff up. Like with the flick of his fingers. Although it's really hard to know because the fused surges are like inwards facing, like the flying ones can fly forever and the cohesion ones can go through things and the that kind of thing. And so I like, how would division inside of yourself work? Like other than blowing yourself up, which would be weird. But anyway, and so I think maybe he's a division fused. And also, Lesian the loser said, hey, I heard they gave your title to a human. So he used to have the title He Who Quiets. And so I think that because Moash earned that title, He Who Quiets, after he killed Yezrian, I think Elle was the herald that would the fused that would go after the heralds during the desolations, being like, hey, I've got a problem. I've got like Taln is in Makabaki and I don't know what to do about him. And it's like, oh, let's go give Elle a call. Elle will deal with him. Like, yeah. And so cool. Super scary, super scary fused. I'm really excited for more of him. I hope he's not a disappointment. But to be quite honest, Brandon's proved from this book he can write damn good villains. Like,
yeah. And then we go to Kaladin, who has gone to the marketplace and he found the merchant shop and he's going through a barrel of like things that have been recovered.
Yeah.
And he finds his wooden horse.
A little tiny wooden horse.
And then he heads to his meeting because he now not only like hosts the meetings with like the men that need mental support.
Yeah.
He's now part of them.
Yeah, he's finally getting help.
Yay.
Yeah. And then we get to the final chapter of the book, which is one of my favourite moments. This is my other like favourite moment of the book. This is as we've ended the last chapter, Dalinar's like, Stormfather, you never show mercy to anyone. And Stormfather's like, no, I showed mercy once. And Dalinar's like, who? And then we switch to this chapter and we get like 4 or 5 pages of Eshonai just drowning. Like, it is horrible. Drowning is a horrible way to die. And like, yeah, she's just getting battered by the storm. It fills the suit up. She like survives it. It falls out. The water filters out, and then like it gets filled up again. And yeah, it's just horrible. But then when she does eventually die, the Stormfather's like, oh hey, it's you. You're sticking around like longer than usual. What are you doing? And she's like confused about what's happening. And she's like, I just wish I could have seen what was over the next hill. And the Stormfather was like, you wanted to see what was over the next hill? Come see what's over all of them. And she gets that one final send-off where she flies over the world and gets to see what the whole world looks like. which is just this beautiful little moment. And I couldn't have asked for something better than this.
She finally got her dream.
She finally got her dream of seeing the world. I honestly don't understand how the world around me configured in such a way where I got to read this chapter, because I don't know. It's just a perfect chapter for me. I just loved it so goddamn much. And
so much you went and ate another shoe.
So much I didn't eat another shoe. No, because she was radiant in that moment. That's what the text said, even though she wasn't actually radiant. But in that moment she was. And yeah, I just loved it. It was great.
I know. Epigraph.
Epilogue. Epilogue.
I'll let you do it.
Oh, this one's easy. So Wit's playing with some coins. He's doing some coin tricks, but like normal coin tricks, because he was complaining about how easy light weaving makes doing tricks, and so he's like doing the usual non-magical tricks as like to be like, hey, look, I can still do tricks without magic. Sometimes it's just about diverting attention. And then he walks into a room and he's in one of the palaces in the Shadow Plains. He's in Alakar's palace in the Shadow Plains. And he walks in. How did he get there?
He purposely took himself there because he knew that Odium would want to talk to him. Yes,
Odium found him, and they have a little sparring match, verbal sparring match. And then Taravangian then asks him a question, but obviously he's appearing as Race. And the question twigs on that to Hoyd. Hoyd works out that he's like, wait, why did he ask me that question? And he realizes
Raze would never ask a question like that.
That question, yeah. And he realizes it's not him, and he quickly nopes out of that conversation. And as he's walking away, Odium's like, no, that's not happening. And discovered something. He's like, what is this? Why are there memories in breath here? That's weird. Squish. And resets Wit to where he was, where they then have the same conversation, but Taravangian doesn't make the same mistake. And Wit leaves thinking that Race still holds Odium. But he does notice something's wrong. He says he felt a shudder in his breaths, and I think his perfect pitch was off, which is weird. So, yeah, that was scary. It turns out that Hoyd has a massive weakness, if you know what you're looking for. So, yeah.
Well, I interpreted that as he took more than just that last moment.
Yeah.
I think he's taken a few of Wit's memories, like the important ones.
Yeah.
That are going to help him to work out how to win this fight.
Yes.
Whereas you just think he took the last 10
seconds.
I
just think he took the last 10 seconds. I think he literally just took the conversation and that's it. I think Taravangian had this conversation with Hoyd because he wants to manipulate Hoyd. He wants Hoyd to do something. If he didn't, he just wouldn't have had this conversation with him. And so if he took all of his memories, that would massively affect what Hoyd was going to do. And I feel like Hoyd would notice super quickly that if a lot of his memories suddenly vanished, especially since he even said, from Hoyd's perspective, he double checks his breaths because he's terrified that they'd been messed with.
Yeah.
And so if they had been messed with, more beyond that conversation, I feel like he would have noticed because he's on the lookout for that kind of change. So,
okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. Cool.
Odium's champion.
So
we both have different theories.
That's the end of the book. We're now going to talk theories. So, the first one, yes.
So, I think that Odium's champion is going to be somebody that Dalinar wouldn't want to fight.
Yes. I think we both agree that.
Yeah. But I think it's going to be someone that could best Dalinar in a fight if they needed to.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be Adolin. It's quite clearly been established that there is a rift forming between them. I think that Taravangian, being smart enough, will manipulate that. I think he'll pick Adolin as his champion. And Adolin will get there, and Dalinar will be upset that he has to kill his son. And be like, well, son, you know you have to die because I have to win this. And Adolin will be like, why?
Yeah.
Don't you, like, you've never, like, understood me, you've never seen my potential, and I think Adolin will fight to win.
Yeah.
Like, I think that there is a fight that Dalinar could potentially lose. And even if he wins, he has to kill his son.
Yeah.
So you can't really count it as a win.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be someone like Adolin where it's going to be absolutely devastating for him.
Yes.
Like, because Navani would never agree to it.
No.
Neither would Yasna.
Nope.
Rhaenyran, I don't think he cares enough about
fighting.
Like, I think Rhaenyran would just happily die because he knows that his dad has to win.
Yeah.
I feel
agree
like
with that,
Adolin already having a bit of a rift with his dad about how his dad doesn't see him as an adult.
And also his dad killed his mum.
His dad killed his mum. His dad seems disappointed with him no matter what he does. Like, I think there's potential to manipulate that.
Yeah.
And I think Taravangian is smart enough to manipulate that. And that is a fight that Dalinar could easily lose. And I think he will lose.
I agree. I believe that Taravangian will pick a champion that Dalinar doesn't want to kill. I am, of course, going for the other member of the Colin family, and I think it's going to be Gavinor. And I think I don't know if I don't know. This isn't my top pick. This is something I think might happen, and I think it'd be really cool if it happened, and I'll be really smug if it does happen. But yeah, I think he will pick a child as his champion, due to that death rattle where I hold a suckling child and I know everyone in the world wants me to stab it. Death rattle, and also it would put Dalinar in a situation where he just won't kill. I just do not see Dalinar killing Gavinor. I just don't see that happening ever. And also, my other theory is that if something happens to Dalinar over the course of the book and he can't be his own champion, Kaladin is the next option. Like, the clear next option is Kaladin. In which case, Kaladin also has a young child in his family who he would never ever kill in a million years, which would be Orodin. And so I think it'll be either Gavin or Orodin, depending on whether it's Dalinar or Kaladin.
See, I think his other potential is Zeth.
Yeah, I was going to say the other one who I actually think is the most likely is Zeth. Just because they have history together. If it is Kaladin, because that's the other thing as well, is I think any champion that would be also has to have the possibility of working.
For Dalinar's champion.
You think Zeth would be Dalinar's champion?
Well, he's sworn to him, isn't he?
That's the point. But I mean, that would make it really dramatic if he's Odium's champion and Dalinar's sort of. So the other thing as well.
But that's what I mean. I don't think that he can swear himself to Odium because that would be breaking his oaths.
I don't think so. Because of the weird way that Skybreaker oaths work. They swear themselves to the law, then they swear themselves to a person, and then they swear themselves to a crusade, and then they swear themselves as the law. Which is always weird to me, because it means when you essentially say all these laws, you swear yourself to be able to abide by the law, and then the final one is you get to do what you want. So
he's going to Shinovar.
Yeah.
I think he's going to discover something in Shinovar that makes him go against Dalinar.
Yeah.
And that's a potential.
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
I still see it being Adolin.
Yeah.
I really do.
I really like the Adolin. I think I like the Adolin theory just because I really like the tragedy of it. I'm a big fan of, like, tragic endings. And so that's also why I like the child theory. But I do think Zeth is the highest contender. Because the other one as well is it's never made sense to me, Brandon changing the ending of Words of Radiance. But if Kaladin and Zeth have to fight each other to the death as the final battle, it would kind of make sense that Brandon would change Words of Radiance ending to be that Kaladin hasn't actually killed Zeth before.
That would make sense.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I would really like it's my child champion theory to be correct, but I do think Zeth is probably more likely. But I also really like the Adolin theory because there is clearly a rift growing there, and it's kind of like,
and it's easy to exploit.
It's easy to exploit, and like, you know, the champ, like, no matter which way it goes, their war ends, and it's not even that bad of an ending. Like, it's just if Odium wins, he gets to keep what he's already got. And
he gets to have Dalinar.
And he gets to have Dalinar. So, you know, Dalinar could even sell... So Taravangian can even sell it to Adolin as like, hey, you want to make your dad immortal? You got to kill him.
No. I think it very much, like...
It will be,
because obviously they've gone to go and win Spren. I think that the news of Spren being able to be killed properly and it being humans that create that technology is going to get back to them. The Spren are going to nope out and leave them again, at which point Adelin's coming back as a failure after already feeling like he's lost his place in the world.
Yeah.
Like, and his dad, who he thought he loved and trusted, killed his mum.
Yeah.
And looks down at him for not being perfect. I think there are so many holes that you can pull apart there.
Within Adelin, yeah.
Like, it's not going to go well.
Do you want another prediction, which is you probably aren't aware of? So, lasting integrity. So, right now I'm pointing at the map of Rochelle we have on our wall. So, lasting integrity is where Tukar is on the southeast. And Kaladin and Zeph are heading to Shinovar. Sorry, the west, not the east.
Yeah.
And so, since Shallan said she's going to go look for Ba'id and Mishram, and Aelin's probably going to go with her, I reckon they're both heading to Shinovar as well. And they're going to look for Shinovar. And that's how their storylines are going to connect.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, we can have the four in a foreign land again.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't Zeph last time, it was Elhokar.
Yeah.
It didn't quite go well.
Didn't quite go very well, but
interesting.
I'm super interested in how the Zeph Kaladin dynamic is going to go. Like, I'm very excited to read that.
I mean, I'm excited for Shallan with her double shard blades.
Double shard blades.
Like,
you know?
I'm well up for that being a thing.
The next one we wanted to talk about is fifth oath ideas, because for the Windrunners, because we both have very good but very different ideas, and I really like yours and you really like mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that Kaladin's fifth Windrunner oath is going to be about accepting that not everybody wants to be saved.
Yeah.
Because at the moment you've got Moash, who obviously used to be his friend. He's now gone blind, so he can't really be that useful to the fused anymore.
Yeah.
I think that he's going to come across Moash at some point and want to try and save him.
Yeah.
And I think his fifth oath is going to be about accepting that not everybody wants to be saved.
Yeah.
And that sometimes you do just have to leave them alone.
Yeah. I don't know how you'd word it as an oath, but I like the idea of his fourth being, I can't save everyone, and his fifth being, and sometimes I want to save people, but they don't want to be saved.
Yeah.
And so I shouldn't.
Because Moash does not want to be saved.
Yeah.
He does not want a redemption arc. Stop wishing he had one.
And so I think it would be an interesting angle to go at. But like I said, I don't know how you'd word it as an oath, but I think it'd be really interesting, and it would fit well with the Kaladin Moash storyline so well. My theory is all of the oaths. So the divine attributes of the Windrunners is leading and protecting. And all of the oaths so far have been about protecting. And so I want his last one to be about leading. What I think it is I think it's going to be about letting people protect themselves, or leading people to protect themselves, or like teaching people how to protect themselves. It's going to be about, like, his first one is I'll protect everyone who can't protect themselves. His second was I'll protect people even if I hate them. His third was I accept I can't protect everyone. And so I think his fifth is going to be like, I have to accept people can protect themselves, and I shouldn't try and protect everyone. Like, essentially, that first oath is I'll protect everyone. His second is removing personal caveats. His fourth is removing personal responsibility to sometimes. And his fifth is taking a step further and being like, I need to allow people, or I need to lead people into protecting themselves, and like, you know. And so that's my theory on where that last one's going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been a really good book.
This is a really good book. I have been thinking about this book a lot, obviously. And Oathbringer sticks out like an odd little child, but in like a good way, like a good odd child. I think that Way of Kings was fantastic, right? I love Words of Radiance even more, and I think one of the reasons I love Words of Radiance even more is it paid off a bunch of stuff promised in Way of Kings. Oathbringer then was less of a sequel to Words of Radiance and more of just its own thing. I think this book is like Way of Kings again, where it's added so much to the world, like Way of Kings did, where it first introduced the world, and I'm so looking forward to book 5, because I think book 5 is going to pay off so much of the stuff that was introduced in this book. Yeah. So, yeah.
Rock. Dead or alive?
Alive, but, like, permanently in prison.
Because when the Windrunners come back,
yes,
they say that that he wasn't at Teth's funeral because Kaladin's never going to see him again.
Yes.
I took that as him being dead. I
did as well, but then I thought about it and I'm like, there's no way that Brandon killed Rock off screen.
I don't know.
I just don't see it.
I don't think it was off screen. I think we will see it eventually.
Do you reckon we might get a novella between 4 and 5, which will be about Rock going back to... Yeah.
But I think he is dead.
I think he's... the only reason I don't think he's dead is I don't think Brandon would kill him off screen. He knows Rock is a popular character.
But that's the thing, it won't be off screen because you will see it.
If it is, then yeah.
But I do think he's dead.
Yeah.
Like, the way it was very, very ominous.
It did sound like the way you would talk about someone who's dead.
Yeah.
Like...
And therefore I think he's dead. Yeah. Like, straight up.
Yeah. I just don't think Brandon would do that. I think that would be beyond...
I don't know.
Even Brandon, like...
I don't know, he just gave me Spren autopsies.
Oh, yeah,
I don't really know anymore.
Yeah. Cool. Is there anything else?
Don't know. I'm sure I'm going to like walk upstairs and in 10 minutes time realise that there's something huge
we want to talk about. Oh yeah, how do you see... We'll probably make an episode like closer to book 5 where we predict what's going to happen. Where do you see book 5 like ending? Do you see like a good end or a bad end?
I see it being a bad ending.
Good.
Same. I think it's going to go one of two ways.
Yeah.
I think either Dalinar is going to fail and Odium will win, at which point the rest of the back 5 will be trying to save Roshar and themselves.
Yeah.
Or he's going to win, but he's going to have to do something so horrific that it literally kills him.
Yeah.
And I think that he's not going to be able to recover for the rest of the books.
Yeah.
And his loss will severely impact the rest of the story. As I said, I genuinely don't see this battle going well for him.
No.
In any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
It's so hard to predict.
Like there's so many potential elements. Like, as I said, you've now got Navani, who has a weird connection with her bond.
Yeah. You've got
the Shadow Knight Radiance.
Yeah.
You've now got anti-Void Light and anti-Stormlight. There's so much.
There's so much that can happen. Yeah. I know, like, there's someone else that is like, we don't know if eating the race has changed Nightblood somehow. Like, that could affect things. Like this.
I think he's a bit I think he's a bit full up at the moment.
I think he's probably a bit full up. Like, yeah. But just
there's
so much. It's hard. My personal my theory is if the child champion things happened, I think that the time skip will be the fights to the death, right?
Yeah. So
they could both turn up and then not kill each other, and the contest just continues until one of them dies. And so I think the time skip would be like Dalinar living out the rest of his life, preparing for his death.
I also think the problem we have is that we are assuming that this contest of champions is going to be of strength.
Us to the death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it might be like having to outwit each other. Like, you know when you've got like 2 glasses of like drink in front of you and one has poison in? Like, it could quite easily not be a physical fight.
Okay, interesting. I hadn't even thought about that. Like,
but that's what I mean. Like, I think the thing is that because we're focusing on it being a contest of strength.
Yeah.
Now that Odium is Taravangian, who is clever. Yeah. He might
have other ideas.
Yeah, because at the moment the contest hasn't been set out as a physical fight. It's been a fight to the death.
It's a.
I think Taravangian is going to manipulate that little loophole.
Yeah.
In the only way he can.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to be a contest of strength. I think it's going to be a contest of something else.
Yeah, this is why I think...
I also have a feeling that he might be his own champion.
What, Taravangian?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like, yeah, Dalinar, you get to be your own, I get to be my own. And I'm unkillable because I'm a shard.
But that's what I mean. Like, there is going to be something he does to manipulate it in his favour.
Yeah.
Because he's a new shard. He's thinking much clearer than Race was.
Yeah.
Because Race was old and starting to go a bit crazy.
Yes.
Whereas Taravangian is fresh and has a way of thinking.
Yeah, and I was like...
Race never possessed.
Race had spent the last, like, however many thousands of years constantly struggling against a shard which was pure hatred. Like, every moment that he wasn't being a hateful dick was a struggle for him. And he struggled for thousands of years to not be like that. So, yeah. Taravangian doesn't have that. He is... something I've just thought as well is if Dalinar can now manipulate connection, he might be able to manipulate the contract elsewhere. Like, he might be able to put it on someone else, or someone else becomes the immortal fused or something. Or I don't know. It's weird. I have no idea where it's going to go.
No.
Like, I would. The reason I like the retirement, the battle doesn't end in that book, and Dalinar just lives out the rest of his life until he dies naturally, is it means that the back 5 prologue event will be like Dalinar's death as opposed to Gavilar's death. And then that'll be a cool way to set off the events of the back 5 is Dalinar dies a natural death, and now Taravangian is like free to do what he wants on Roshar. But the thing that I'm like sitting there like, how does this factor into thing is I'm almost 99% sure that Dalinar will take up honor before this series is done. And so I'm trying to work out how that will factor into things. So yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
or maybe he'll take up honor before the fight.
And that's why Kaladin has to be his champion or something.
Well, no, because now you've got 2 shards battling to the death.
Yeah.
And obviously at that point...
Yeah.
If he did win, Odium's no more.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't really matter. And if he did lose, then Race now has honour as well as
like a servant.
Odium.
Yeah.
You know?
It'd be weird.
I know, that's what I mean. Like, I feel like there is going to be something huge at this contest that we're not expecting.
Brandon's going to pull something out that we're not going to expect.
Like, this whole book was something I didn't expect.
Yeah.
So I genuinely... Like, it's really hard making predictions about the next book and, the following books. Because I didn't expect any of this book.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, hang on a sec.
Anything
can happen.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting.
It is. Cool. So, that was Rhythm of War. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this whilst we've enjoyed making these, because they've been great. You can now talk about Rhythm of War spoilers in the comments, guys. You have my permission.
But not Dawn Shard.
Because Dawn Shard's next week. Because whilst we're at the end of... Basically nearly at the end of the Cosmere now. So Dawn Shard will be last. That'll be the next episode. And then we're probably going to take a break over Christmas. And then we'll do some other stuff in the new year. Stuff. We've got stuff planned. We've got a lot of stuff going on.
We do.
Yeah. And so, yeah. Hope you guys had a great time. Follow us on 17thshard.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And subscribe to us here on YouTube. And give us money on Patreon. And... leave us comments down below. I want to hear your Rhythm of War or Stormlight 5 theories. I want to hear your favourite bits from Rhythm of War, all of them, every single one, other than the whole book. I'll say the whole book. And I want to hear all your theories on what's going to happen in the next book. And we'll see you guys next time for Dawn Shard. Bye.
Bye.